Hey, welcome back to No Hype Beer Reviews. Unless it's your first time, then welcome. Please consider subscribing. If you do, hit the notification bell, get all the updates. Really excited for today's video. Beer's courtesy of Ross. Thanks so much, Ross. I really appreciate it. A couple reasons I'm drinking this beer today. One, I was talking to Ross, and he's like, yeah, like the new bourbon barrel age. Well, they sometimes age in different kinds of barrels. But anyway, the Revolution new barrel aged beers, have been coming out. And I'm like, oh crap, I still have some from last year I should be drinking. And then a couple people are like, what are your thoughts on drinking beer that's been in a can for a really long time and like leaching chemicals and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should drink down the cans I have. And then Joe from the Beer Patrol did a cool, actually twice he did it, where he reviewed a beer, did it recently, where he reviewed a beer exactly a year after it was canned. And this beer fits all of those criteria. It's Revolution collaborating with Acre. It's in a can, so it's leaching chemicals, and it's exactly canned anyway a year today, and it'll be posted the day after on what's today, 7th, so tomorrow will be the 8th for Cellar Saturday, and on Saturdays I try to drink down my stash. Think that's everything I wanted to say. So yeah, again, it's Revolution and Acre, which is really cool. They collabed on this. It's I almost did this as a Tuesday test your palate, because listen to this beer. Imperial Rye Porter, aged in bourbon barrels, 14%. So you got a porter that's real big, that's also rye, and then it's aged in bourbon barrels. Really trippy can art. Hope it's coming across on camera pretty well. Like I said, it's a year old in the can. I did not have this fresh, so I can't compare it to fresh versus now. It's pretty darn dark, but yeah, it's a pretty darn dark brown as you pour. And then, not surprising, once you get in the, oh, that smells good. Once you get in the glass, there is a blackness to it, but there's definitely a decent amount of brown in there, which kind of, when I think of a porter, and it's one of the reasons I'm so interested in this beer, I kind of think stout lesser than, like it's like a thinner stout sometimes, and there are other, anyway, that's a different video. What's the difference between a porter and a stout? This looks like either what I would think a barely lighter stout, or like a really robust porter, like in that realm, based on that richness of color. I'm getting almost exactly a finger of a light mocha head, relatively compact bubbles. For how I usually use that term, it's probably even less less relatively compact than I normally say. Anyway, I already got a nice aroma, so let me do a proper aroma. I just love the idea it's like someone's first review of me and they're like, man, this guy talks a lot, which I do, but man, that's nice. Man, it's nice and it's different. You get, who would have thought like rye and caramel go nicely together? A lot of oak, big coconut. Huge, that expression of coconut. And it's cool too. It's weird. It's like big muted coconut. It's like, which sounds contradictory. It's so obviously there, but then it's like a soft thing. So it's not like soft as in it's like a whisper barely there. It's there for sure, but the expression. Apparently I'm salivating at the thought of drinking this beer. Maybe lose my train of thought. Oh, but what is there? Yeah, it is just, it's, I don't know. That's a trip of a thing. Light chocolate notes. Some nice vanilla too. I'm getting these things from the barrel. I don't know how long. I don't think it said how long it was aged in a barrel for. I'm getting some really cool barrel expression. The rye, there's a little bit of that. In terms of, I was kind of thinking I was going to go into this beer review really focusing on how this drink's different than a stout. In the aroma, it's not quite as roasty as I think a stout is, but like porters have a good heft of roast too. It's just I'm getting so much barrel without. There's a little bit of oak, but I'm getting so many things I associate with what a barrel can kick out. It's really kind of messing with me. There's like a whisper of smoke, but it's overly. The majority of this is a sweet smell. There's a kiss of like that molasses, savory, not soy sauce, but like you can see how if you really, turn that dial up, you would get to a point where you'd be like, is that soy saucy? That is equal parts fabulous and fascinating of an aroma. This is definitely, at least from what it smells like, unlike maybe anything I've smelled before. This is like really intriguing, but it works, which is cool. Let's see about the taste. Cheers. Thanks again, Ross. Man, I gotta tell you that that taste is the same way. It is, man. It's like, I don't know, maybe like the first time you eat a new kind of food, and you're like, wow, I didn't think these flavors went together. Or like you're used to eating a very traditional fried rice, let's say, right? Like with vegetables and protein of choice. And then maybe you go to like Chinese fried rice, like very typical sounding. And then, oh, the cat came down. And then you have maybe more of, at least around me, like Thai places are more likely to put maybe pineapple in it. And you're like, what? A fruit like pineapple and something that I only associate being one way, right? And then you taste and you're like, wow, these flavors do work together. And that's kind of what this beer is like, where it's like, from a culinary perspective, it's things like the aroma that I'm not used to, which is then kind of surprising how much it works. Okay, so what am I tasting? I get some of that caramel. I get how it's the roastiness is light. Get a little bit of coconut and vanilla, just like the aroma. It very much is like the aroma. Little bit of oak, but like for how much the barrel stuff is coming forward, the oak is kind of surprisingly not as forward as I would think, because it's like, well, how's it drawing so much of the other things without the actual wood substance that it was held in? So it's there, but very light. Nice warming in the chest. Excuse me, for sure, but not getting any sort of alcohol burn on the taste. There's this cool, I think it must be the rye, the barrel, and I guess maybe this is a really obvious thing to say, and then the beer itself, but like the base beer. But it's kind of reminding me of that this year's Goose Island Bourbon County cherry wood. It almost has like that cherry, but cherry wood, not actual fruit cherry. It's like reminiscent of that. It's obviously not cherry wood in reality, but like it kind of, the cherry note is very woody, is more what I'm saying, versus fruity wood or fruity, like cherry fruit. It's more of like cherry wood, and it's probably because of the combination of all this stuff. And tell you what, and again, I'm glad I contemplated doing this on a Tuesday where I'm trying to test my palate and drink something different. This, I mean, it's very unique, and it is in very real time. You're watching my mind be blown, and then try to put my mind back together and explain what I'm tasting and how it's different, but also working together. And it's I hope it's making for a good review, because like it's making for a really good drinking experience. And also, like the aroma, there's a nice sweetness to it, but there are these things drying it out. I think the higher ABV, even though I'm not really getting a palate, maybe the oak, even though I'm not getting like overly oak tannins, is helping. maybe the rye, a little bit of that spiciness, maybe the rye can help dry it out. I don't know, because like it does, it's harmonious. It's, at least in terms of the sweetness and the dryness, I would say it's very balanced that way. It overall, it's probably on the sweeter side, but it's still, it's bringing a nice balance to it. It's not 50-50 though, is I guess what I'm saying. I'm gonna put it this way: like when I turn off the camera and I'll take a picture for Instagram. You know, pour the rest, and I'll take a picture, or fill up the glass at least. Take a picture for Instagram, and then I'm gonna immediately look up other people's thoughts on this beer because I'm like super fascinated. What people are saying about this, and if there's like other tasting notes that people put out there that I can be like, yep, that's another thing I get. But yeah, speaking of people's tasting notes, have you had this beer before? If you have, what did you think? Comment section below. Let's get a conversation going. Once you're done doing that, make sure you check me out on Instagram and Untappd. It's No Hype Beer Reviews at both those places. So always please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, imbibe. Cheers, everyone.